Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
I get asked from time to time about the concept of a citizen's arrest. They say, Steve, if I were to conduct a citizen's arrest, how would I do that and should I do that? And I don't like to talk about it too much here because it's going to vary wildly from state to state. In Michigan, for instance, there's a statute that says you can do a citizen's arrest under certain circumstances. And the implication, of course, is that any other circumstances you can't. And any attorney is going to tell you you probably shouldn't unless you're really, really certain and you really, really want to do it. And you're running a risk. The risk, of course, is that if you citizens arrest somebody and you do it wrong, you're going to get sued for false arrest and you might lose. So here's a story, though, Scott sent me. It's from WRAL. The owner of a North Carolina car dealership captures a man he says stole a $30,000 Mercedes, and he did that with a citizen's arrest. And this might be a situation where it makes sense. It might be. But how often do you find yourself in this situation versus something else? So the man owns a dealership. He made the arrest after he claims the man stole one of his cars. The owner of the dealership says that this guy came in and stole a Mercedes worth $30,000 from his dealership in June. Video shows a dealership worker chasing after the car as it sped away. And the man almost got hit. So the dealer says he wanted to see the car. And 3 days later, he got a call that the car was found parked 2 miles away. So he ran on out to where the car was. He called the police. And when he got there, he also saw the man who took the car. And he said all of a sudden he just showed up out of the woods. So apparently the car was parked near some woods. The man wasn't in the car, but the man was near the car. So the dealer says that after some back and forth, the guy who took the car handed over the keys and then started walking away. And the guy said, I'm not going to let that happen. So he gave me the keys and he tried to run. So I grabbed him. I said, you're not going anywhere. The police are coming and you're not going nowhere. He then zip-tied the man's wrists together and made a citizen's arrest. Now, the fact that he's got the zip ties on him indicates to me he may have been kind of thinking about this in advance. And he said, you have to take your chances sometimes. Records show that the man who stole the car had been arrested numerous times before over the past few months, accused of stealing cars in Rock Hill, South Carolina, Gaston, Mecklenburg, and a few other places, Mecklenburg County. The dealership is thankful his employee wasn't hurt in the scenario, but is furious that the thief continues to get out of jail over and over again. It makes me angry. It makes me mad. He's a repeated criminal. He's going to do it over and over again. And a repeated criminal, the term is recidivist, a recidivist. The dealers of the man caused $8,000 in damage to the car taken from his lot. So good luck recovering that. That's the entire story. So let's get back now to when you can conduct a citizen's arrest. This is going to vary wildly state to state. So I'm going to talk about Michigan because I am, in fact, in Michigan, and the blue books behind me are the MCLs, the Michigan Compiled Laws. And that would be where you'd find a law that says whether or not you can do a citizen's arrest. Interestingly, in Michigan, it's called an arrest by a private person. An arrest by a private person, and that's MCL 764.16. A private person may make an arrest in the following situations. And there's four. There's four. One, for a felony committed in the private person's presence. If you see someone commit a felony in your presence, you can make a citizen's arrest in Michigan. Now, that requires two things. It happened in your presence. What if you saw it on a security camera and it was at a different location? That's not in your presence. Number two, do you know where the dividing line is between misdemeanor and felony? Is someone walking across property, trespassing? Are they committing a felony? Second, if the person to be arrested has committed a felony, although not in the private person's presence. So here it says, if they've committed a felony, not in your presence, but the presumption is that you know darn well it was a felony and you know they committed it. What if it's the wrong person? That's the biggest thing. Or what if they didn't commit a felony? So, and by the way, what if you make the arrest and they put them on trial and they're found not guilty? Guess what? 3, if a private person is summoned by a peace officer to assist the officer. So you see a police officer dealing with somebody, and the cop yells at you, hey, can you help me? When you come over and assist the police officer, you are authorized to do that. And technically, is it a citizen's arrest? Well, you're not going to be doing the arrest, but you'll be participating at a level that you'd need protection, and the law gives it to you. Fourth, if the private person is a merchant, an agent of a merchant, an employee of a merchant, or an independent contractor providing security for a merchant of a store, and has reasonable cause to believe the person to be arrested has violated sections, and it lists a bunch of sections involving shoplifting and theft. So a merchant of a store can, and you'll notice there's no requirement there of it being a felony, because someone stealing something small wouldn't be a felony. But they do empower that, and they often refer to that as a shopkeeper's privilege, which is also codified elsewhere with respect to what you can and cannot sue a shopkeeper for if they reasonably detain you. And that's one of the things we had a lot of people arguing me about. They say, Steve, a shopkeeper's not a police officer. They can't arrest you. Well, they can make a citizen's arrest, and the standard for them doing it is lower than that for a typical citizen, okay, under certain circumstances, and that's presuming that the person that they're arresting committed one of these enumerated crimes that's spelled out here in the statute. So if you were to speak to any attorney, there's 38,000 attorneys in Michigan, there's just as many everywhere else. There's a lot of attorneys out there. And you go up to an attorney at random and say, hey, I've been hearing about this citizen's arrest concept. Sounds like it might be fun. What do you think? Should I ever try one? And you will overwhelmingly get back, no, do not try it. Don't think about it. Get that thought out of your mind. The reason being that the average person is going to do something wrong. They're going to arrest somebody for a misdemeanor. They're going to arrest somebody who's the wrong person. They're going to injure somebody while trying to arrest them. And I am not making this one up. I actually, years ago, was picking a jury for a trial in Macomb County. I can tell you, I remember this vividly. It was one of the first trials I participated in when I got out of law school. This was a while ago, probably 1991 or 92. That's that long ago. And for jury selection, the jurors have been asked to fill out a questionnaire that's several pages long. And when people got drawn to be questioned, we'd pull out their questionnaire and we could ask them questions and take a look at answers to questions. It speeds up the process. And one of the questions was, have you ever been arrested? And in response to that question, one of the people in the pool actually said, I have never been arrested, but I once arrested somebody, they wrote citizen's arrest, for a traffic violation. And me and the other attorneys working on the case looked at each other and said, whoa. I'd love to know the story behind that. Because was the traffic violation a felony? I can think of one or two that could be, but the odds of it are pretty slim. So some guy sees somebody commit a traffic violation, and he takes it upon himself to perform a citizen's arrest. So we never knew. We never found out. Because that person, I don't think they got called into the pool, so we never got to ask them about that. But we were going like, what? Like, the guy performed a citizen's arrest over a traffic offense that he had witnessed. And like I said, probably a lot more going on there. Generally speaking, don't think a citizen's arrest is something you should be doing unless there's some crazy circumstance. But here, again, I'm talking about a different state, so this is happening in North Carolina. But the guy is a merchant. And he's basically saying, look, this guy stole this car. That car was stolen, and I saw him steal it. So I'm going to citizens arrest him. And so it very well could be that North Carolina has a similar statute on the books, and that might be good. That might be a way to do it. And frankly, I don't blame the guy. I'd be very annoyed also. So, Scott, thanks for sending it from WRAL. Owner of North Carolina dealership captures man he says stole a $30,000 Mercedes, and he did it with a citizen's arrest and some zip ties. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Well, that was mildly amusing.